Let's talk about your brother, President
Marvin?
Yeah, America wants to know more.
Marv's doing well. Thanks for asking.
George W. Bush, you've said recently, reportedly, that you said that he's your top advisor on Israel and the Middle East, that you value his advice on foreign policy, which will lead some to ask, what specifically, right? So he got criticized by some for being a so-called neocon, for promoting values of, he said spreading freedom and ending tyranny, but his detractors would say, he was pushing our values on other nations and getting us into wars we shouldn't have been in.
I got the whole narrative. Comes my way on a regular basis.
Sure.
I love my brother, and I respect his service. And in terms of living presidents and someone who has lived this and breathed it, the fight against terror and our relationship starting with Israel, but how you build relationships with the countries that are so essential to create security in the world, I do rely on him, and I respect his advice. He's not the only person that advises me. I have, one of the fun things about the journey I'm on is I get to call people up I really respect and admire, and believe it or not, they're answering my calls. So of course I'm going to ask my brother his advice.
Do you see the world as he does? Do you see that, the so-called Bush doctrine? Do you subscribe to it?
The question really related to Israel when this was leaked out to the rest of the world in this gathering, and there I don't think you'd find a stronger supporter of a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship than that of my brother, and that was the reference in which I brought this up. Am I the same as my brother? Of course not. I'm not. I think, for example, our foreign policy ought to be grounded in not just the export of our own values or nation building. Those are good sentiments, but first and foremost in security and peace. And I think what we've seen under this president is, as we've pulled back, we're creating an incredibly insecure world. And the narrative that the left wants to bring, which is either you're for this nuanced view of pulling back and that we're leading from behind and that we're part of the community of nations and blah, 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 that if you don't believe that, you're a warmonger, I just reject out of hand. The broad bipartisan consensus in the post-World War II era is to have a certain America, an America that leads, an America that understands its power should be used judiciously, but it needs to be used in the sense whenever it's appropriate to do so. That's not what we have today.